Welcome to another episode of the Tobago House of Assembly's Post-Executive Council Media Briefing. This week, the Secretary of Infrastructure, Quarries and the Environment, Kwesi Devines, addresses the media.
This afternoon, I really want to start off by emphasizing something that I know that we had a press conference earlier this week, but I really want to emphasize again because it seems the message hasn't quite gotten out there, that the Division of Infrastructure, Quarries and the Environment has no plans at this present time to cut workers or cut 500 workers, as was reported in a newspaper article from the program. The other thing is that we have not spent twice the $20 million allocation, as was reported in that newspaper article as well. Again, those are things that are fallacies. As a matter of fact, as was reported on Monday, we would have spent just over $14 million on the program to date. And of course, we would have recognized in the division that the time has definitely come to take a serious look at the unemployment relief program. And we would have started with an operations audit. We would have taken some of the recommendations out of the audit. We would have come up with a new policy that was adopted, and I would have spoken about it right here in December. We would have gone about a verification process of the employees. We would have gotten employees their qualifications in some instances and certificates. And this, of course, is as we look to ramp up marketing these employees to other businesses and workplaces, and of course the Division of Community Development's Labor Exchange Bureau. So and beyond that, seeing how we can align persons' skills and natural inclinations with the operations of the program. What we have also decided to do and set out doing is being more purposeful and driven in the revenue generating areas. The furniture workshop, of course, URP has some of the best tradesmen in Tobago. The concrete plant, we're looking to ramp up production there. And of course, agriculture, we really want to get a lot more persons into agriculture in the program. Right now, we only have 38. And we want to get up to 200 and then 300, as a matter of fact, before the end of June. So the reality is we are staying in focus or in line with the mandate of the Tobago House of Assembly currently, there's a focus on agriculture. And we definitely see that URP could be a very integral part of that thrust in terms of apprenticeship training both in the harder skills of joinery, carpentry, masonry, and training in terms of the softer skills, life skills. These are things that the URP workers are now being exposed to for the first time in a long time, and it's something that we take very seriously because we're looking at building capacity, because people have to become those agents for change, that force for positive change in their own lives. And again, through partnership with the Division of Community Development, Enterprise Development and Labor, we are looking to see how we can expose persons in URP to opportunities for grants and loans for business development. So to that end, we agreed today, we're working on the fine details. We are partnering with the Division of Community Development, the Division of Food Production, for training in agro-processing. And we'll be starting that in March so that the women in the women program in particular will be exposed to this training and can seek to empower themselves and start putting products on the shelves. Because again, as I said in the press conference, we now have tambourine balls from Thailand here in Tobago, Benny balls from Trinidad and so on. So I just want to emphasize the fact again that we are not about to cut any workers, we're not contemplating cutting any workers. We are refocusing the program. We are starting up with a project management approach in the construction areas, and we are going to be managing and accounting very firmly in these areas, of course. So we have some 20 construction programs that will be rolling out from March 1st, and we will be rotating as well the environment and the women's programs. As I speak about the workers of the Division of Infrastructure, I did not get the opportunity to do so before, and I must do so now. commend the workers of the Division of Infrastructure, Quarries and the Environment, particularly those maintenance, the road maintenance workers, who would have done, I think, a really splendid job post-Carnival, the post-Carnival cleanup. We would have been able to save a lot of funding. We did not pay any overtime. Persons committed to their tasks, and persons would have done the cleanups in different areas, Roxborough, Scarborough, and Crown Point. And I really am pleased at the responsiveness of the unit. There was one time there was even a WASA blowout by the Esplanade area. And I think the response then of even WASA on that occasion was pretty good. So that I'm really pleased at the type of work that we saw, and I must publicly commend the workers of the division for what they have done. In terms of the environment, and you all notice that at times I have a very strong bias to the environment, and it's because we cannot take what we have here in Tobago lightly. Our environment is really what separates us. It's our competitive edge. Our environment we cannot take for granted. We are losing the Bucko Reef, for example. We have lost a lot of very sensitive areas because of indiscriminate activities. Of course, as a small island developing state, we are also very much at the mercy of global warming and its effects, climate change, and its effects, rising sea levels, and we're seeing it in the way our coastlines are being eroded. And I just want to say that today, before the Executive Council, there was consideration for the formal adoption of a coastal zone protection unit. And we would have been in consultation with the Coastal Protection Unit at the Ministry of Works and Transport in Trinidad, as we look to share some expertise, share some knowledge, and start rolling out our coastal zone protection plans. One of the things, the first mandates of this coastal zone protection unit will be to finally have for Tobago a coastal zone management plan. Now, there would have been the general framework set up before by a consultancy that was done through the IMA, and we're going to be using that as part of our base to have a coastal zone management plan for the entire of Tobago. Of course, if you look around now, we're seeing some of the what we would call red zones of coastal zone erosion. You can speak about the Roxborough Argyle area, Blackrock area, Pigeon Point, Crown Point, and of course the Milford Road area. And sometimes it's scary for me, even driving on that road, when we're taking account of some of the projects in that area, the old Milford Road as we call it, and seeing the effects of the rising sea levels and the erosion of the coastline. So this coastal zone protection unit, the management unit I should say, sorry, will be responsible for taking up the mantle of having a management plan in place and ensuring that we can roll out this management plan. Already, through the facilitation of the Division of Finance and the Economy, we are looking to engage the IADB, the Inter-American Development Bank, for a possible loan, coastal protection, for the coastal protection works. They have special loan facilities for climate change and climate change mitigation against the effects of climate change. And we're going to be we are putting together a strong case in the first instance for Pigeon Point. I don't know how many of you have been to Pigeon Point recently, but the erosion there is really scary. And it's scary to me to think that as a young boy, I was able to enjoy what I remember as Pigeon Point, and I'm worried that generations from now will not have that opportunity to enjoy Pigeon Point in the way that we even know it today. The data is there to show the serious erosion from even as far as from 1996 to now, and the change in the coastline, in the shape of the coastline, the erosion of what we call the North Beach and the depositing, of the South Beach, and the depositing of the sand in what we call the Windhole area. So it's really one of our top priorities to get to protecting the Pigeon Point Heritage Park, because as you are well aware and people would appreciate, tourism being one of our main drivers of our economy, we have to protect our tourism assets as well. Before the Executive Council today was a consideration as well. As you all remember, the styrofoam policy, there was a report that was tabled. Of course, consultation usually takes a lot longer than we hope. And because of the consultative process, we would have been delayed quite significantly. To date, we still haven't had the report on input, a firm input from the Chamber of Commerce, an official input, I should say. And again, these are just the nuances of public consultation. But what we should see rolling out soon is a clear policy by the Assembly for how we can start reducing the use of styrofoam and styrofoam products. And I must commend those persons who I've gone to harvest festivals and seen persons already using alternative packaging, biodegradable and compostable packaging. The Assembly would have ensured that was the case for the Heritage Festival as well. And we are looking to see how we could roll that out more and more. I must commend the persons who would have seen the business opportunity and opened enterprises with selling alternative packaging products, alternative to styrofoam. And the response I've been told so far has been very positive. We have some major persons on the island, suppliers on the island who are willing to get on board and to become project champions, and we look forward to rolling that out in the coming months. I really want to speak to dumping. I know there are particular members of the media who always ask me about dumping, and the habit is beyond disturbing at this point in time. And the division has really committed itself to expending whatever resources it can to mitigate against illegal dumping. I've gotten reports of our environment police tracking down persons because persons would have dumped and even dumped personal correspondences among the items on the side of the road. And the police would have been able to track down people to clean up areas that they would have dumped. And we are seeing more and more dumping in the Bonacourt estate area. And there's an even more disturbing trend where persons would have been driving far into the estate to dump, and now they are coming further and further out. They are becoming bolder and bolder. And I'm saying to the media and the public that the police can't be everywhere. The Division of Infrastructure, Quarries and the Environment personnel cannot be everywhere. We have to start being our own litter wardens as well, because we are very well aware sometimes of when our neighbors or sisters or brothers or cousins, whoever it is, are dumping illegally around Tobago, and they're ruining Tobago. They are stealing our beauty, they are murdering the environment. And we have to start taking dumping that seriously. And it's really a disturbing trend. And I really want the media in particular to start sending the message out, sending the message to our young people that we need to chase the Charlie that has come back in our society, chase Charlie away. And to that end, again, by assessing the current environment, you would be aware that tomorrow in the House, we will be debating, I would have tabled a motion for the adoption or the support of the adoption of a protected area management system for Tobago. Now, this is something we have a strong history of protecting our spaces. Of course, in 1765, we know the Main Ridge was declared as a forest reserve, and that was for the main intent at the point in time. Tobago was, there was a plantocracy on the island, and they saw the importance of the Main Ridge as a watershed to maintain the plantations. But we are looking at protected area management system for Tobago, because currently there are over 30 pieces of national legislation that speak to different types of protection, different types of protected areas, different levels of protection as well. And what we are doing in Tobago is saying, you know what, we need to take charge. This is our space, and we are now putting a system in place where we can say definitively, these are the areas that we want protected. And we can start with the Main Ridge, as I said in the motion. We can look at the proposed Northeast Marine Park. We can look at other areas, and there have already been several public consultations. And again, people have gone as far as to even say that the Lambo Beach should be a protected area as well, the Goldsboro watershed and so on. So people want to see more protected areas in Tobago. One, and it's okay to say that the area is protected, but how do we manage? And just on Monday, I'm pleased to announce that the Division of Infrastructure, Quarries and the Environment would have handed out instruments of appointment to the Northeast Tobago Protected Areas Management Trust. And this is the first of its kind, and we're looking at vesting the protected areas in the Northeast Tobago in the first instance under this management trust. Again, this is also a co-management approach. So we now have NGOs coming on board, the business community coming on board, of course, with the Tobago House of Assembly. So we have all three sectors of society coming on board to form part of that thrust for managing our protected areas. And again, this is a new approach in terms of co-management, and we are looking forward to the yield from this approach. And this will be bolstered by when we pass the policy for the protected area management system. And of course, once you adopt the policy, we can start looking at legislatively what can we do. And again, because of where we are legislatively now, we could decide that we take a THA bill forward to the Assembly and then send it forward to Cabinet, or we can push for autonomy where we can make our own laws, and this protected area management system can be legislated right here in Tobago. But I don't want people to miss the importance of having a system of protected areas, of managing protected areas in Tobago, and having an agency as well that manages these protected areas under a clear system of guidelines and policies. Again, currently we do not have that in place. And I've heard people already started making cynical and sarcastic comments saying, so why do we need to do that? Why not is the question. We need to protect our environment for future generations. We have a responsibility to do it as of now. I happen to also be an avid scuba diver, and sometimes going to some of the reef areas and seeing the degradation of even our coral reefs in Northeast Tobago. You recognize that sometimes indiscriminate human activity from on land can also lead to the degradation of our sensitive environment spaces. So yes, we can also blame global warming and say, well, it's bigger than us. But very often as well, our own terrestrial activities can lead to serious implications in terms of the marine space. I also want to report as well that we have completed the exercise of putting up the speed limit signs on the highway, on the Claude Noel Highway. And I want to take the opportunity to remind Tobagonians that the 80 kilometer per hour speed limit zone starts from the eastern boundary, if you want to put it that way, of the 80 kilometer zone starts at the Bacalet Junction traffic light. It's not at the top of John Dial or anywhere like that. It's at the Bacalet Junction traffic light and goes to the Sherburne traffic light. And then, of course, you have along Sherburne Road to the Buku Junction or just past the Buku Junction, and from the Buku Junction to the Montgomery Junction. So I want persons to be very cognizant of the law, because, of course, ignorance of the law is usually no excuse. But it has been put out there time and time again. And I want persons to keep in mind, of course, the speed gun is very active in Tobago now. So it's not the fault of anyone else that you are found to be in excess of the speed limit at any portion of the nation's roads. And speaking of which, there's an alarming trend of persons even driving on the roads in communities. And you would have seen, you may have noticed that we have started putting up the school zone signs in other areas. We have put up some speed bump signs already, school zone signs, and we're going to be installing the humps in the coming weeks. So the drivers need to be paying more attention, because imagine I got complaints from the area representative for Canaan Bonaccord, Assemblyman Clarence Jacob, Secretary Jacob, saying that even though there's a traffic light in front of the Bonaccord Primary School, there are still near misses and incidents where persons are almost run over by indiscriminate drivers and reckless drivers. And this, even though that traffic light has been there for donkey years, And this even though there is a pedestrian crossing there. And we know that in the past there would have been a fatality there already. So we have to be very careful and let people be very mindful when you're driving in school zones. Pay extra mind to the fact that students are in the area and you don't want to be the one to knock down one of our bright prospects of the nation's future because you wanted to get to the supermarket before it closed or before the playway booth closed. You're speeding to get there. So those are the really critical areas that I wanted to address. If there are any further questions, please feel free to add.
Afternoon, Secretary. You mentioned the dumping and the division is going to pay greater attention to it and expend resources to curb it. Last time we spoke about it, you spoke about a camera trap pilot. What's the update on that?
All right, so the latest is that an RFP, the technical requirements would have been set up. We'd have tried to do an in-house technical specification. Because we would have used a particular type of camera before, there were some recommendations, but of course we would have recognized the shortcoming that we don't have any professionals in that area within the division. So what we would have done is put out an RFP using the procurement units in the division. So an RFP has been issued so that persons can now supply to us camera specifications and so on, so that we can start using the best, and again using best practice to select the best technical specs for cameras to use on the island.
Secretary Devins, on the motion for tomorrow,
yes,
and the Northeast management team, would the Forest Reserve, the Main Ridge, fall under that committee now?
Definitely. Actually, the motion does speak to the fact that we want to pursue and to develop and adopt protected area management system for Tobago, and that the first place that we should put under this protected areas management system is the Main Ridge Forest Reserve. Now, there would have been significant consultations done already. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Integrated Forest Protected Area Management System project that was piloted by the FAO using funded from the Global Environment Fund. The Division of Food Production will be very instrumental in that, so that the boundaries even of the Main Ridge will reestablish. We'd have done a wildlife survey in the Main Ridge area. So all of this work has been going on as groundwork for us to move to the next level of having this protected area management system. So the Main Ridge will be the first place that we're proposing to put under this management system. You are also well aware that we are moving towards having the Main Ridge and its surrounding areas designated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And all of these things bolster the cause, bolster our case for having the area designated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, because the first question that the international community asks, especially when you be approaching for funding, is what are you doing to protect your areas? And we can't just sit back and say, well, in 1765, the British government declared here a forest reserve. That's not good enough anymore. We have to show deliberate action as to how we are protecting our spaces. And I think that we are taking the right steps to ensure that we are doing just that. So definitely the Main Ridge Forest Reserve will fall under the protected area management system, and we are looking forward to including more and more places as we bring them on a phased basis, of course, with greater consultation and with greater awareness to the public, so that people understand what is going on, because of course there are different levels of protection that we can go to, and the system will speak to this.
Okay, and given the fact that there may be other pressing issues before Tobago and before the THA presently, so which might be the sea and air bridge, why is this so important at this point in time?
Well, we can ask that question for almost anything, and I don't know that the environment is any less important than any other issue. Because if it is, we aren't protecting our Tobago space, then what are we doing? So I don't know that the environment is not a pressing issue. As a matter of fact, I beg to differ. I think the environment is a very pressing issue. And the sea and air bridge, we have spoken about it. We have deliberated on it. The Prime Minister has spoken about it. There's a joint select committee on the sea and air bridge. And the list continues. There's a meeting with the private sector, a meeting with the stakeholders. There have been many things done and said about that. But what are we doing and saying about our environment? And again, I would always maintain, and we could look at our Caribbean neighbors in Haiti, where they would have gone as far as to feel, although Hispaniola, we have on one side the Dominican Republic, on the other side Haiti, we'd have seen where not protecting our environment can have serious implications as well. So the price for doing nothing could be much greater at this point, I believe. So I would beg to differ that there are more pressing issues. I think that there are many pressing issues, and we will continue to address them as we go along.
Afternoon, Secretary Devines. Trying to stray a little. I'm not sure if you are in a position to answer this question, but I'll ask it anyway. Does the Tobago House of Assembly have any plans at all to maybe recognize or honor Winston Duke? Maybe in a speech, a celebration? I'm not sure. Well,
I think first and foremost, let me say I think everyone is proud to know that we have such an export from Tobago, making such great waves. I mean, I saw the movie already and I was really impressed. I think Tobagonians on a whole feel very proud. And it's early days yet. And I mean, we have many icons that the Tobago House of Assembly have recognized in many different ways, be it Shadow, Calypso Rose, and the list can go on and on. So we have many, the track record is there to show that we have honored our icons, and I have no reason to believe that Mr. Winston Duke will not be treated in a similar way. I happen to know from a one-on-one conversation with the Secretary for Tourism, she actually is very familiar with Mr. Duke personally, and they have already been in conversation as to how, even beyond honoring him, how he can play an active role as a tourism ambassador for Tobago. And I know that those talks have been bearing fruit. We could look forward to an announcement from the Secretary for Tourism in the near future. But in the meantime, I think we all join with the rest of Tobago, and even Trinidad and Tobago by extension, in really congratulating Mr. Duke, feeling proud, and Mr. Winston Duke that is, and feeling proud of his achievements. And no doubt I expect to see bigger and better things coming from him.
Yes, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Two concerns. One would be on quarrying, and the other one would be on an issue that you touched with regard to the Bon Accord Primary School. I wanted to find out whether your division is directly responsible for the speed humps, you call it, the traffic lighting system, and the two-way mirror system. I'm asking that because I am associated directly with that school. I am the head of a support committee. That issue was on the table last week. Yes, we knew that the secretary, the representative, was going to take it to the Executive Council. But we have a meeting later, so it doesn't make sense that I'm right here and I don't follow up with you on that. We have looked at the scenario, and we have discovered that just as the school in Collar Hall, where on both sides the hump deliberately slows you down, in addition to which there's some big drive slow signs that could be written in the road. I don't know how literate drivers are, but a concerted effort needs to be made for that particular zone we're talking about. Even the bell, it rings too soft. It must ring louder. That bell must be, when it rings, it must resonate in the communities. So I just wanted to clarify whether your division is directly responsible for those three specific areas that I outlined.
I think a man of your background is fully aware of the mandate of the Division of Infrastructure, and your concerns are well noted, and again, they have been expressed previously, and there are things that we have passed on to the traffic management, well, the traffic, transportation traffic engineer in the division. And again, we take those concerns very seriously, and the recommendations as well. They've been made previously, and there are things that we're going to be acting on. So we can see some action coming forward and some relief.
Thank you for staying with us for the Tobago House of Assembly's Post-Executive Council Media Briefing for the week ending February 24th, 2018.